So this is just a command line Python script, and I'll go over this in as much detail as I can to make this beginner friendly. But let me just give you a demo first. So when you run this in the command line, you'll see three options. The first one is for blocking websites, number 2 is for unblocking websites, and number 3, which is my favorite, is to only unblock these social media websites for 20 minutes, and then it will automatically kick you off and block them again. So let me show you option 3, which I've been using every day for like 6 months. So if you press 3 and click enter, I can't let you get your social media that fast. Okay, if you want to unblock social media, you have to write an explanation first. It's only 100 characters, so it's really not a big deal, but we need to add some friction, otherwise you're gonna keep unblocking. And if your explanation is too short, I'm sorry, but we are terminating the script and you need to write a better one. So like in this case, I was 3 characters away from getting my social media, so let me try again. So that reason was accepted, and as you can see, it starts a countdown that's going to show us how much time we have left for our scroll session. I'm going to speed up the video. So once the timer ends, it's going to close your browser so that the block can take effect. And then when you try to go to social media websites after that, they won't be able to resolve. So the other 2 options for the script are pretty self-explanatory. Number 1, you don't need to write an explanation. It'll just block up the sites. And then number 2, you can unblock sites with no timer. It does require that same 100 character explanation. And if you use it and you don't immediately see that the websites are unblocked, don't worry, you just need to restart your browser so that the unblock can take effect, because browsers do cache these things. So let me explain how this script is able to block websites. Basically, if you're on a Mac or a Linux operating system, you have a system file called etc hosts. This is what is inside that file. This is the default of that file without any changes made to it. So we're able to use this file to redirect websites to IPs that don't go anywhere, instead of letting them resolve to their actual IP. I posted a video showing how to manually block websites by editing this file, but this script is a level above that because it does the work for us. So let me show you how this file changes after I use my script to block social media websites. See, now the script wrote all of these lines to the file so that all of these social media websites get redirected to a localhost IP, and that's all it takes to block them. So now I wanted to give you an overview of the code so I can explain how exactly the script works, and so that I can point out some parts of it that you may wish to customize. So over here, just some Python package imports that we need. Over here are my variables. This one is my unblock duration, so I have it as 20 minutes, and then this just calculates that into seconds. But if you want your unblock duration to be higher or lower, you can just edit this 20 here. You set the minutes, and then these are my sites that the script is going to be blocking. So this script does make a small folder in your documents called social blocker, and it saves a backup of the host file. So the first time that you run this script, I have this little function here that just writes your host file into this file called host backup, and you can find it in this path. And I do want to say that I've been using this script for over 6 months, and I've never had any issue with it like corrupting my host file or it messing anything up. And the code does not delete your etc host file, so I've personally never had to reference this backup to restore it. However, if you're someone who's going to be putting this into ChatGPT and like running this code with some modifications that you got from AI, then in case you blow something up and you want to go back, you will at least have a backup file to work off of. Okay, now let's get into the logic, which starts at the bottom here with the main function, which is the entry point of the code, and these are the options that you see in the console. So if you select number 1, which is for blocking social media, Then the code goes to a function called manage block entries with the parameter block. So if we go up to that function, so what this function does is that it reads the current state of the etc host file and it saves it into a list called lines. And then it determines what we want the new state of the file to be, and it saves that into cleaned. So over here, there's a little loop that allows it to iterate over the file, and it's going to make sure that cleaned always has these original lines that stay in the etc host file. And then depending on if this function was sent to block or unblock, it's going to either override it with just this, or it's also going to add these lines into the cleaned list. So in our case of wanting to block websites with option number 1, we're saving all of these lines, and then we're going to add build block to the cleaned list as well. So that function is up here, and it's just going to add like the lines in the format of what we want to block to that list. So over here is just the code for that with a bunch of variables, but these block comment begin and ends are just these guys right here, and writes all of these lines. So yeah, I'm using IP4 and I'm also doing IP6 to make sure the website gets blocked for both of those cases. And then for each of my websites, I have www as well as just a regular website. And I wanted to make sure that I do this for both of those because sometimes websites will link YouTube and they'll only link to like one or the other. And sometimes these like go to different IPs, so we need to make sure that they're both blocked. Otherwise, you can kind of have a loophole that you could find and you could still access those websites. So after this function adds those lines to the lines list, then the function that we were at, it just opens the etc host file and now it overrides it with the new state that we want. So the new state for blocking looks like this. The original stuff plus this blocked website section. So now for menu choice number 2, which is unblock social media, then we're going to this unblock sites function. So it is right here, unblock sites. So first thing it does is go to the journal entry function, which just asks you to input your 100 character explanation. If you're short a few characters, sorry, we're exiting the script. But if you're good, then we're also capturing the current timestamp, and then we're opening the journal file and we're writing that timestamp there with the explanation. And this file is going to be saved in your documents directory in a folder called social blocker, and the file name is unblock request journal. So you'll be able to see that in that folder and you can reference it at any time. And your psychologist will also be referencing this file as part of your ongoing mental evaluation. And now for the final choice, we go to this unblock sites timed function, which is right here. And same thing, we get that journal entry. Second thing, we go back to the manage block entries function, but now with the parameter of unblock, which is going to read the etc host file again. And now cleaned is only going to be the original values of that file, just this part. That's all we're going to save to cleaned. We're not going to append the block section. We're going to skip this part because this is not our parameter. And then we're just going to overwrite the file with the state that we want, which in this case is just going to be these lines. In that way, the sites will be unblocked because these IP blocks will be removed. And then this is the timer part. So for this, we're actually going to unblock socials for 20 minutes. And we're going to do that by starting a thread that is going to go to this reblock after timeouts, where it will start a countdown and print out how many minutes are remaining every time 60 seconds elapses. And then once that loop finishes, we're going to go back to the manage block entries and we're going to overwrite the state of the etc host file again, this time adding back that blocked section to it, as well as preserving the original stuff, of course. And then we're going to also close the browsers after writing back the blocked section, because sometimes the block doesn't go into effect unless you close your browser and reopen it. So I don't want you to still have access to these sites because they're cached by your browser. And so for this is Darwin, which is Mac, and I only did this for the Chrome, Firefox, and Safari browsers. But if you're using a browser outside of these, you'll have to add another line here. So if you want to start using this right now, here's what you need to do. First, you need to check that you have Python installed. So you can do this by opening the terminal and typing Python 3. /version. I think macOS comes with Python installed by default, but if you don't see a version number show up, you can download Python easily without needing any command line tools by going to python.org/downloads. And then you can find the download compatible with your OS, if that's Mac or Linux. You'll see a big download button at the end of the page. And when you go through the installer, you can just get the standard install. And then you just click on this certificate file to launch a terminal session that will finish the installation. After that, when you rerun this command, you should see a version number. Next, you can go to my GitHub where the script is stored and click on the site. There's a download icon at the top here, and if you click it, it will save it right to your downloads directory. Now you can run it from the terminal by first going into your downloads directory by doing cd downloads, then running sudo python3 siteblocker py, and you're ready to start using it. Now I wanted to show you some bonus commands that will just give you some visibility into what the script changed. So like I mentioned before, this script is just modifying one file /etc/hosts. If you want to check up on what is currently in that file, you can run a command called sudo cat /etc/hosts, and that will print out exactly what is in that file right now. So right now, since I had just run the option to block websites, I have the original content of the file, which the script never modifies, and then a section with all the sites that I want to redirect. Now, if you ever want to ditch the script and just go into this file manually, you can do that by doing sudo nano /etc/hosts, and that will put you in the file in editing mode. So if I just wanted to delete all of these blocks manually, I could go down to the very bottom of the file using the down arrow and just click backspace until I've removed all of that and only preserved the original part of the file. And I can save it by doing Control X and then just hitting Y, enter. So if you print out the state of the file again, you can see that it's just in its original state. So that's all I had for this video.